There are a lot of steps in creating a luxury brand, and in today's episode, I'm going to show you exactly the steps I did to create one. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Standley with Standley Handcrafted, and today we're not only talking about launching and creating a luxury brand, but also the launch of my new fragrance oil business, Bohosoft. There are a lot of things that go into creating a luxury brand, and today's episode I'm going to show you exactly what I did to try and create mine. All right, and before we get into this episode, this is Bohosoft. All right, so that's it right there. This is a new oil brand that I'm launching, one that I've spent probably the last 6 or 8 months creating. It is this right here. And I'm going to go through and show you exactly the steps that I went to try and create and rebrand the fragrance oils that I originally came out with. All right, so I guess the origin story of this one and the reason why I kind of wanted to go through and recreate the oil brand is when I first started the candle supply company last year sometime, probably about a year and a half ago now, I knew I was going to sell oils, but I didn't really put too much thought into it. So I originally just jumped out, went to the first oil supplier that I knew about and started ordering a bunch of different oils. And along with the oils, the only other piece of the product that I really kind of thought about just a little bit were the bottles. And I knew I wanted to have something a little bit different than the stuff that was out there, from the clear to the brown to the white to anything like that. But I really didn't know what I wanted or kind of how to style it after that. So I just went to a bottle manufacturer and I just started ordering some bottles, some test ones that I like. And I originally came up with the blue ones that you have all seen in previous videos. And in the beginning, they definitely turned out just fine. They definitely look different from a lot of the oil bottles that are on the market today. They're blue. Not a lot of people use the blue bottles. I liked them quite a bit, but I didn't put a whole lot of time into testing different lids, testing the looks, and of course, testing the labels. And that's kind of where I lost the branding a little bit on the original oils. Was I just didn't put enough time into the labels. It was just straight oils. I wasn't really worried about it, and it wasn't that it was a bad thing. It's just the oil. There was nothing special about the oils, and I'll put a picture up here so you can see them. It's just real straightforward. It was on matte white paper, just black labeling. I put a few things on there. One of the things I did put on the label that I definitely like, and a lot of customers actually liked, was the fragrance oil chart. Now, a lot of people don't put that on the label, which is why I wanted to put it on there and kind of help it stand out just a little bit. But past that, I really didn't put too much thought into the rest of it. And again, like I said in the beginning, it wasn't that it was a bad thing, but in the grand scheme of things, the oils just kind of got lost in the mix. They got lost in with the rest of the supplies, from the wicks to the melters. They didn't really stand out on their own. And after a while, it started to really bug me that I did want them to stand out more. I wanted them to have more of an identity within the product lineup. And that's where I kind of started to rethink the oils and what I wanted to do and how to basically rebrand them, and not only make them definitely stand out in the product lineup that I have, but make them stand out a little bit more in the grand scheme of things with fragrance oils in general. And of course, that comes right down to branding. How are you going to go through and make your brand stand out when there is a sea of manufacturers and suppliers out there already doing the same thing? And then, of course, one of the other things that I quickly realized was I went out and I just went to the first oil manufacturer that I could find, one that I knew about, one that I know has nice oils, and I started to buy a bunch of different oils from them, but I didn't test anything out from the various other oil manufacturers that are out there. So, and that was definitely shooting myself in the foot just a little bit, because there are so many good oils out there. And if you just take the time to go through and look at some of those, you'll start to see some of the differences, which is what I noticed within the first couple months of getting my oils. I started to bring in some of the oils that I really liked, ones that I knew that I wanted to sell. Something like Plumeria is probably the example I bring up the most. One of my favorites. It's a good floral scent. It's not real flowery or perfumey. And it's one that kind of touches the line on people who like florals and people who don't like florals. A lot of people will pick up Plumeria. And unfortunately, the one that I picked up, I just wasn't a fan of. It was a good oil and it did smell nice, but one thing I started to realize is when you start to go, I didn't realize this until later, but when you start to pick up different oils from different manufacturers, you definitely notice a smell difference and also a burn difference in the types of oils that you can get. So the first Plumeria that I picked up, I did like it, but for me, it wasn't my favorite Plumeria that I've ever smelled. I had smelled other ones that I really like, and for some reason, this one came off as a little bit more almost perfumey or soapy in the smell. It was real heavy on one of the scents, and it just didn't really sit right on kind of my palate. It did sell well and people did like that one, but for me personally, I knew it could be better. So that's when I knew I was really going to change the oils, and I started to go out to the various manufacturers that are out there, reached out to a few different ones. I think I've worked with 4 or 5 different ones at this point, and I started to order samples from all the suppliers. I would get new ones from some, and then I would get the same one from every single one. So I would go through and I would get a Plumeria sample from all 5. And then of course I would go through and get like Sex on the Beach or cinnamon, apple spice, and lavender. Basically scents that I knew really well and I could really tell the difference between those oils. And then of course, once the samples show up, it's very easy to tell the difference between 5 different lavenders, which one you're going to like the best. So of course, once I started to find the scents that I did like, I started to basically note those down. That's the one I want to go with. That's the Plumeria that I want to go with. Lavender, cinnamon, whatever it was. And then of course, diving deeper into some of the manufacturers and some of the suppliers, you start to notice the ingredients that they use are definitely a different quality between the suppliers. And that's not to say that a supplier is making a bad oil, but you can definitely tell the difference, especially anybody that's out there that has bought several different oils from a couple different manufacturers. Every once in a while, you can really tell a difference. You can pick one up, you pick up a lavender from one and you pick up a lavender for 2, and it just smells fresher. It smells like you can just tell that it was made with a higher quality, possibly essential oil or the perfume that goes into it. And that was just another one of those confirmations that I really needed to switch things up and go towards oils that I definitely liked, but ones that just fresh out of the bottle smelled so much different than the ones I was normally picking up. And then aside from the oils, the biggest thing I wanted to do was rebrand the bottles. And like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the bottles. After a while, I started noticing different things. The liners that are in the top of the lids. A lot of them come, see if I can get that there, with these pressure sensitive liners, but you got to be careful with some of these because some of them, depending on the oils that you pick up, they will eat the top of that and then it just goes into the oil. It doesn't damage the oil, but it just doesn't look good either. So that's when I started to go through and look for lids that were really meant for oils, ones that could withstand some of the harsher oils. Like cinnamon is a really tough one on different types of materials, plastics, anything like that. It can really eat through it just because of the oil that's in there. And again, these are just things that I didn't know until you're supposed to know or until you find out. And unfortunately, I definitely found out with the first oils, the first lids, the first labels. I started to notice some inconsistencies or just really things that weren't up to par for an oil or a bottle that I really wanted to send out. So once I obviously narrowed down the bottle, I started to go through and rethink the branding in general, just the labels, what I wanted to have on them. I knew I wanted to go with a little bit more of a luxury type label, something that kind of stood out just a little bit more than just the basic flat white, black on white text. And that's when I reached out to Lightning Labels, who have turned out to be incredible. If you haven't used them, I would definitely recommend them. They've got a sample pack that they'll send out to any customer, and it's just a folder that's full of all the different paper types that they sell. So really nice to go through, be able to look at these, pick them up, feel them, put them on the side of a bottle, and kind of see how they look. And once we started going through those, we narrowed it down to our top 3 very fast. And the one that we ended up going with was one of their textured labels. It comes off really nice in the touch. It looks like it has texture all the way through it, which it actually does. And along with the Bohosoft name and the feel that we were going for, it just definitely matched up, a little bit more natural. And I'll go ahead and put the label up here, but we started to do other things too. So not only did we want to have the textured label, but the flower that's on this too, we wanted to go through and have that embossed. So if you run your finger over the top of it, You can feel that the whole flower is raised. It's been kind of stamped in as the stickers go through the line. And then, of course, we went through and did the gold leaf or gold foil around the entire label. And then, of course, the name is something that we came up with. My wife is a big boho fan. She loves the boho style. And we were just kind of going through trying to figure out names, and she came up with Bohosoft. And it turned out to be a name that I really like. I like the whole feel of it. I like the aesthetic of it. I kind of like I like the meaning behind it. Everything about it like really stood out to me. And then on the back side of the label, the one thing that we tried to do was, like I said, get away from the matte white paper. It just didn't look really good. So we just went with kind of a basic glossy white paper. It comes off really nice. It prints really well. It holds color extremely well. And of course, just leaving the overall presentation of the bottle, the label and everything, just coming out extremely nice. It's something I'm very happy with. I love the way that it came out. But of course, doing something like that, coming up with the real nice labels, the good lids, gold foil in the label, embossing the textured paper, means absolutely nothing if you don't have a good product to go inside of it. And that's where I really took the most amount of time. Like I was saying earlier, some of the oils that I was getting were definitely nice and they're easy sellers, but they just didn't really stand out. One of the oils that's easy to tell the difference between is Sex on the Beach. It's a really nice fragrance. It's bright, it's fruity, it's citrus. And a couple of the ones that we got, you can tell that the blending of it just wasn't done really well. So it's got citrus, peach, cranberries, lemons, pineapple in some of them. So you really get kind of a mix when you go between some of these. And one of the ones that we got, the one that I immediately took way out, was one that was like very heavy on the cranberry that was in there. And it wasn't that it was a bad smell or a bad oil, but it just wasn't a good blend. So if you have like 5 or 6 different ingredients, you're looking at 20% of this one, 20% of that one, 20, 20, 20, and it all evens out really well. And of course, if you want to kind of play with those a little bit, you start mixing the percentages. So you might have 30% of this one, 10% of this one. Whereas the first one I got, it literally smelled like it was 40% cranberry. And again, it wasn't a bad oil. It sold really well. A lot of people do like that one, but for me personally, it wasn't the blend that I wanted to go for. So we tried a couple different fragrance oils, and I found one that was definitely a better blend, and not only a better blend, but just an overall better scent. The moment you open the bottle and smell it, you get a nice blend of everything in there, and it just smells a lot more fresh than the other oil. So that was the main thing I wanted to do when we put the oils in the Bohosoft bottles, was I wanted it to be oils that basically I wanted to make candles with. And then of course, the other big thing to look for when you're getting into oils is you're going to see the price differences immediately. So getting into something like your basic scents, which we definitely carry, your cinnamon, vanilla, lavender, plumeria, apple cinnamon, stuff like that. Those are very straightforward oils. They're definitely a little bit cheaper because there's not a ton of kind of blending and complexity that goes into those. You can definitely get different types of cinnamon, but you're really not going to see the complexity of an oil in something like that, as opposed to like our orchids and pampas grass. That one has a lot more complex notes in it. It's definitely a different blend. And until you start kind of blending your own oils or having a manufacturer create your own oils, these are a good way to get very unique oils that definitely step away from kind of the basic line that I was talking about with like your cinnamon, vanilla, lavender. And then of course that jumps into how much do we want to even charge for oils? And if you're in the market today looking at oils, obviously everything is basically going up in price the last couple of years. The other thing we wanted to do with our oils was definitely bring a higher quality oil than the ones that we had seen out there and the ones that we had tested. And you start to quickly realize that fragrance oils can go up all over the place. And if you've been in the market for a little bit, you've definitely seen that with oil prices anywhere from $20 to $100 for a 16-ounce bottle. And the difference between those can definitely be big. There's a definite smell and quality difference between like a $10 oil and a $50, $60 oil. But is it enough of a difference to build your whole brand? Or did I want to build my whole brand around a $60, $70, $80 oil? And I ultimately came back with no. Those oils are extremely nice, but the market that's on those is very niche. Candle making in general is very niche. And then once you start drilling down into oil categories like that, You will get some customers, and I knew that I would get customers, but it definitely comes down to how many customers and how niche did I want to get with these. And you can definitely build your oil brand and keep your oil prices somewhat low and still have nice quality oils. And that's kind of the balance I went between. I knew I wanted to have some oils that were nicely priced. And pretty much now the category from 20 to 30, that's pretty much the norm at this point, especially with everything going up the last couple of years with shipping lines to inflation to anything you can think of. And there are definitely a lot more oil companies out there that are in the $30 to $40 range also, which again, incredible oils, but it's what kind of market share or what kind of niche did I want to get into? And I think we found a mix of some oils that are very nice quality that we could still sell in a good price range that people are going to go for. But all in all, I think we came out with a very nice product, something that me personally, I'm very proud of this one. I definitely wasn't as proud of the first oils that we brought out, and it's just because I just didn't put the time and effort into it. I just launched it and basically said, we'll figure it out as we go. Whereas this one, I stopped everything and we created it from the ground up, from the bottles to the labels to the presentation, branding, and then of course the product that goes into it, which is a nice high quality oil, which of course is now available at bohosoft.com. So I would definitely say if you're interested, definitely jump out, try the oils. We've got everything from the 16 ounce, 8 ounce, 4 ounce, and 2 ounce samples. And I'm definitely curious to see what people think of the oils. And of course, I'm going to make another video on this one because I think a lot of people will have a ton of questions. So if you do have questions on the oils, the branding, or anything that we did, please let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll go through and make some follow-up videos talking about everything. And then of course, if you have tried the oils or you do try the oils, I would love to hear what you think of them. And again, let me know in the comment section down below. But for now, jump over to bohosoft.com. And that's another area where we took a lot of time with the website and really tried to style it to match the branding. So please jump over there, take a look, and let me know what you think. And of course, thank you for watching. Hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.